Live. Okay, guys. Guru Nation, we're live. Jasmyn Adams, CRA Career Coach Nation. You live?
It's telling me now that I need to enter. It looks
Okay,
like
we wait. We wait. We wait. Guru Nation.
no, it's okay. You can keep going. I'll do this while you introduce.
Oh, okay, good. So Jasmine's gonna go live too. This is the first time ever StreamYard released this new feature where two people can go live at the same time. But let me introduce to Guru Nation, Jasmyn Adams. This lady is a force to be reckoned with in this industry. She's been on my radar maybe 6 years. I remember the first time seeing her on YouTube, and I was like, okay, who is this person making videos too? And oh, she's actually good, and she actually knows what she's talking about. All right, and so little by little, we started interviewing each other, and um, each time I've had her on Guru Nation, it's a classic. Like, there's a reason she has 20,000 LinkedIn followers. She knows what she's talking about. This is gonna be reality. Everyone thinks CRA, senior CRA, CTM, these are dream jobs. Everyone thinks site owner is a dream job. And it is and it isn't. It depends on what day it is and how prepared you are. For a lot of you guys watching, we're going to hit you over the head with like some real stuff. Oh, you're live. I could see it up here on the
Yeah,
links. That's
I
cool.
just came live. I just had to. You know how when we log in the StreamYard, you have to enter in the description and the title
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
that's cool. Awesome. So you guys are seeing this like on both channels,
Yeah,
but we're here to give reality because oftentimes people think the grass is always greener. Like, I have coordinators that some of them want to be CRAs. In the past, I've had coordinator want to be CRAs. Then you have CRAs want to be CTMs. Then you have CTMs want to go back to CRA. Then you have CRA want to go back to coordinator. Nobody's happy, basically. So we got to figure out what's going on. Um, but then site owners too. Like, not every site owner is successful. Like, there's
yeah. And
failures.
there's depending on the site, there's definitely that rotation of study coordinators going in and out.
That too. Like, you don't know how to keep your staff happy
Yeah,
because of what we just said. Like, your CRCs may want to be CRAs.
yeah,
They might think the grass is always greener.
yeah.
And I guess maybe we start with that. Like, is the grass always greener on the other side? What do you think, Jasmine?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know too, even from when you were monitoring, it's not. And like so many people, what do they say? They wanted the money, the travel, like they think about those things, but they have no clue what they're getting into. It's rough.
No. And what do you think they actually think they're going to get into, like, versus reality?
I have no clue because it's like everybody that I talk to, anyways, they each are in like their own little world. So for some reason, they just hear like six figures and travel, and they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy. This is gonna be, a great life. Like I'm not gonna have to do much. You get to work from home, right? It's remote. Like you never go into an office. Like never. Even when you start, they send you your computer, so everything's remote, and you're on your own. So people feel like, oh, I literally am free. I can do whatever. I make my own schedule, and they get lost in that, but they never really think about the job itself.
Yes, it's guys, there if someone's paying you six figures or more to do a job, like, it's going to be work involved, a good amount of work involved.
Yes.
Um so this is what Jasmine does. She trains people, okay, I'm your career coach, like, what do you want to do? Like, let them know exactly what steps you take them through from all walks of life, any industry. Just kind of how do you deal with like a typical client? Like, walk them through their career journey.
Like what would I do for, like somebody, let's say somebody came to me, they're a study coordinator and they're like, oh my God, I want to be a CRA, right? Um,
Yes.
the first conversation I have is like what we just had. Are you sure? Um, because there's so many people that they get in the industry, which is a large reason why a lot of companies won't train and they won't bring in entry level because they get in and then they get out within 3 months because you know, it's just too much or it's too stressful or they find out they don't like it, what have you. So first we have that conversation, kind of try to see where they're at mentally. Do you really know what a CRA does? Do you really know what it's about? Do you really want this, or is it just like you just see like glittery gold? Um, so that's the first thing. And then I do an assessment of where they are, like in terms of their resume, their LinkedIn profile, their networking strategies, their job search strategies, their interviewing skills. Like I just assess and audit all of it, including their mindset. Because, we talked about that too, especially with, I know some women are going to disagree with me,
Mm.
but especially with women, we had that conversation. Like we have an extra set of struggles with like the insecurities, the confidence, all that stuff. So we even work through that. So I assess where they are with everything. And then based on that assessment, I kind of build a plan for the person, depending on what areas they're struggling in, their strengths, their weaknesses. I build a plan and then we go from there and then we build out everything that they need.
Yeah, and the planning is important. I mean, I think having a general sense of what you want to do or
Yeah.
what one wants to do is important, but I think also being willing to be flexible, like
Yeah.
technology change. The industry is moving super quick right now with technology, like Versatile, Creo, and Nato. Shout out to my sponsors. Like these are tech vendors that are enabling sponsors and sites to work more efficiently. And in a way, if you like really take like a bird's eye view of what's happening, there's all these vendors like the three I mentioned, but there's like hundreds of them that are kind of helping sites and sponsors kind of get closer together.
Yeah.
So like there are people in between. These are supposed to be the monitors, right? These are supposed to be CTMs. But what about if the sponsor just hires these people instead of CROs? And as someone that works for a CRO, how do you feel about this changing landscape, ever changing landscape?
It can be a little bit tricky because the CROs, especially the giants, they're not gonna, allow anything that is gonna jeopardize their existence. So in terms of like what it looks like if we talked about somebody buying them out type of situation. I'm not sure how that will play out, but I definitely feel like it's gonna take over. I don't know the logistics and who's gonna end up owning who or what, but if we're allowed to use it and we're allowed to let it grow and spread, I mean, it only makes sense because there's so many. Like for example, when you're capturing data in source, right? And then that person has to, or if they have a data entry specialist, they then have to take that information in the source, whether it's electronic or paper, and then transcribe it into EDC, right? And just think about how many errors, how many queries are raised just because of a transcription error. So it like completely eliminating that one step in and of itself is like a game changer, you know?
Yes. Shout out to Creo for doing that. Thank you, Jasmine, for the easy slam dunk there. Creo is trying to do that with their eSource. They already have, not trying to make, they already have a EDC on the back end
Yeah.
that they could plug into sponsors' um, studies. And so this, you got a question. This is why it's so important to stay informed and aware of what's happening. Like if we look at, I haven't even had a chance to talk to you about this. CVS, thinking they can do research, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
they got out of it like last week. They were done.
How long did that last?
I would say like a year, maybe a year and a half. Like
Oh God, they didn't even give it a try.
so they got caught up during COVID because they thought every study is going to be like
A
the
COVID study.
Operation Warp Speed, where it's just volume, and so they were going for the volume. Like let's get a lot of patients in.
Yeah,
But most studies don't work that way. Most studies are actually going the opposite direction. Like you
yeah,
work on studies, your CTM. The IE criteria is stronger, stricter than it's ever been.
yeah, and it's getting even more strict. Um, yeah, and then depending on the therapeutic area, it gets very detailed, very strict. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I didn't know, I didn't hear about CVS. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, probably better off. if I wasn't on LinkedIn so often, I probably wouldn't have heard about that either. But it's not just them; it's all these decentralized trial companies.
Oh wow.
Massive layoff. Maybe we could talk about that. There's okay. It's one thing for CVS's business strategy to not work out. They're a $300 billion company. They'll survive. But what about the brand new coordinator they hired that now only has 6 months of experience on their resume as a
Yeah.
coordinator? Like maybe they're dejected now and say, hey, you know what? I don't know about research. It didn't work
Yeah.
with CVS. Why would it work with Yuma Clinical Trials?
Yeah.
And then they go do something else. Like what? The industry is gonna have to. I mean, we're understaffed. You're working at a CRO. Like you
On
can't.
both sides. On both sides. We hear it on both sides. So understaffed on the site side, understaffed on the CRO side. I don't know if the sponsor side, I don't hear that so much. Um, but
Soon.
definitely with CRAs and study coordinators, it's like a huge shortage. And you'll see, like, as a CRA, you might see, or I've seen, I can give myself as an example. At one point, I've seen a site go through six study coordinators on one study while I was their monitor. Um, and you'll see the same
Wow.
thing with monitors. Like sometimes the site, I'll get on a study and I'll see they had like six or seven monitors before me, and the study's only been going on for like maybe a year. So you'll see that a lot now.
Do you think the turnover of staff is this industry's biggest weakness, or is there something else?
I personally feel like that's if not the biggest, weakest, at least like top three.
Hmm.
Um, because
What's the other two? If you had to think,
I would say, I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a nice way. Um,
say it in a mean way. We're not gonna offend anyone.
but I feel like another one would be like a nice light way of saying it would be like, um, be more realistic in terms of the goals that you're setting and specifically like patient enrollment. Is an example. Be realistic with these projections and these timelines, like with the first patient in, with the last patient in. You know what I mean? Like be. Sadaf said no filter.
No filter. You and a filter, you go to like a conference where you wear a suit. Not this one.
But you know what I mean? Like we have these conversations. Like it's the timeline. It's like but it's basically like you're setting yourself up for failure before you even get started, just
Right.
because of how the study is structured from the beginning. So
But
imagine,
who's to blame for that though? Like these projectors, sites are not angels. Like we try to embellish our feasibility so we
yeah,
get
you do.
selected, and the CROs embellish a lot to sponsors about what they can do and what kind of relationship they have with their
Yeah,
sites, and then sponsors just seem to believe everything.
they do, but then it's like on both sides type of thing. Because then you might have this that site with that PI or PIs that is kind of like embellishing on their experience and embellishing on their resources, right? So saying that they can conduct a trial that they really don't have the resources, whether that's equipment or site staff, what have you, they really don't have the resources to execute certain protocols that they're taking, but they need the money, right? So it's like embellishment on both sides that is really causing another huge issue because nobody's being like transparent, realistic, whatever you want to call it, with what they can truly do, what's truly within their scope. And so it's like you're setting everybody up for failure from the beginning, right?
Eh, I mean, it even translates down to the patients. So
It does.
when a
That's
patient really wants to get like yeah, but like all these impacts, but like when a patient really wants to get into a study and the coordinator tells them, like I had an example recently on my site, and the patient misunderstood that she we just needed people who tried like an NSAID that were non-responders, right? It's an arthritis study. So she on the phone, she told me she took NSAID. And when she came in, she understood it wrong when another coordinator asked her. She thought if she would have said yes, that she took an NSAID, she wouldn't get in. So she said no to the
Oh yeah,
coordinator.
you're right. Embellishment on the patient side.
It's
Yeah,
embellishment on their side too if it trickles
yeah,
down to them. So then
yeah.
the coordinator came to me and said, "Hey, well, she doesn't qualify." I said, "What do you mean she doesn't qualify? I just talked to her on the phone. She gave me a list of all her meds. Let me go talk to her." And when I talked to her, then she said, "Oh no, it's I thought I couldn't get in if I said yes, so I said no." but she really did. So it worked well, but it's like everyone does it to try
Yeah,
to position themselves.
in the best light, right?
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem because I don't what that study, I don't know, the drug and like the ins and outs, but imagine if it was like a more complicated study where they're just saying yes to stuff so
Hmm.
that they can be included and they can, enroll. Just imagine that. And it's like something that really is like a serious issue. So you're right. That's another layer of embellishment that creates issues specifically when it comes to like patient safety and then the data integrity. Because if you
If
have
it's a
patients on
human
the
being,
study,
it's a
right,
human being issue, man.
right, ultimately,
But so the efficiencies, because it's so understaffed, right? So on one hand, where you're working, not to single out where you work, it happens at every CRO, but
yeah, every CRO,
you
unless it's
have
a
like
little baby startup one, but any mid to large CRO, yes, same thing.
yeah, like you're probably doing two people's jobs, maybe if not more. Hey, you're maybe more. This is very common though. Like we have our coordinators doing multiple people's jobs certain days. That's on one hand, okay, like the established workforce. On the other hand, you have like CVS, Sciences 37. What's the name of the other one? Care Access. They had mass layoffs recently, right? So they
Hmm.
have all these staff. They just laid them all off. So there's a gap because there's some of those people they're gonna quit the industry. Others, some
Yeah,
other more established companies or traditional companies are gonna say, well, they're not hireable. They worked in a system that didn't work.
yeah.
And then you're gonna have others that say, yeah, I'll take like the best ones from there. Like I'd be crazy not to. So I don't see like a plan for all. I mean, these are like
I
thousands
don't
of
either.
people.
I don't either.
There's got to be some, like a matchmaker out there that can put like the job recruiters are supposed to do that. I guess that's where
Well,
you come in with the career coaching.
well, yes and no, because I don't do the resourcing. But I
Mm.
will say CRA resources. I don't know if you know Angela. Do you at CRA
Mm,
resources? No.
no, maybe. Sorry, Angela, I don't know.
I guess I just feel like you know everybody, so I just assume. But she's one of the co-owners at CRA Resources, Angela Roberts. Um, and we have a live series that we're planning too from a recruiter's perspective, talking about those topics. But she talked about how when companies have layoffs, they specifically target. They'll go and find all those people that got layoffs, and they just all tackle them one by one and reach out to them.
Mm.
I thought
Th-
that was genius.
But the yes, and I think we need more like that.
Yeah,
You also need the at the CRO level, right? Like the candidates have a responsibility as well. Like they all have LinkedIn. They all can be networking. They could go to ACRP, SOCRO.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what do you recommend they do if they're in that situation? Let's say you just got laid off CVS. You were a coordinator for 6 months.
First thing I would do is make a post, letting everybody know what just happened. And it's not like you have to do it in like a, blasting, negative, like shame on CVS way. You can still do it in a positive light way, but the first thing you want to do is to put that out there so people can know, okay, number one, you're unemployed now. So look at me. I'm ready to get a job. And then number two, like if you structure it the right way, you can show like your positive, mindset and attitude about the whole job search. But who doesn't want a positive employee, right? That's taking a spin on the situation of just being laid off. And then if you set that post right, you can also talk about some of the skills that you have to offer, and some of the experience that you have. Like you can turn that into essentially like a little mini billboard ad saying, "Hey, just been laid off, hire me, and this is what I can do for you." So that would be the very first step. And if you are, God forbid, one of the people that don't have LinkedIn, you need to set up a LinkedIn account like immediately. Stop listening to us. Set it up right now. Cause I don't know about you. Did you stream to YouTube?
No, it'll go on YouTube after though.
Well, I stream on all of them live. So we might have some YouTube watchers now.
Yep.
Um, but if you're watching and you do not have a LinkedIn profile, like start like literally get off get off live now and start this LinkedIn profile because that's like gonna be number one. And I know a lot of people are still resistant. I have clients, we have to work through it. I told you about it. But like LinkedIn is gonna be the largest net you will ever be able to cast. Like what other platform is gonna put you in front of millions of people who are literally looking for somebody like you?
Mm-hmm. But why do you think people are afraid, or let's say they have a LinkedIn, but maybe even like you said, you have some clients that are afraid to even start their LinkedIn. Why are they afraid?
I get different reasons. The most common one is that they feel like they're a private person and they don't want to put their business out there. That's the most common one that I get. Um, that they
Okay.
feel like it's like another social media platform like Facebook or Instagram, and they're like over all of them. So they want to have another one. Um, they feel like they don't want their current employer or somebody at in the past to see them and to see them possibly posting and talking about looking for a job, or if their comment is, they don't want people to see what they're doing, whether they're embarrassed or insecure, or they feel like some of my clients feel like if their current job, anybody from their current job sees it, then they may potentially risk being fired for whatever reason. They
Wow.
have that thought. So it's like a lot of different thoughts that are all scary, right? About what LinkedIn could potentially do to their life or their career or what have you.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, like I encourage both of my CRC, all three of my CRCs to start LinkedIn, and one of them already had one, the other one did, and the other one doesn't want to because she's private. That was her exact
See,
reasoning.
I told you that that's the most common.
Mhm.
That's literally the most common reason. And it's I don't get I get it, but at the same time I don't, because you can be private and on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I kind of
Um,
get it too, but fear of being fired is what Jesse Molina says. But if you work at a company that you're afraid you're gonna get fired because you have a LinkedIn or because of something you post, like you probably don't want to be there anyways.
that's true. That's true, because you want to be in an environment that supports your growth and supports your brand and your marketing. Because at the end of the day, like with those other companies, if they want to lay you off, they will. And what do you have left? You have to have skills that can help you like survive regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What what do you feel like someone as accomplished as yourself who's been were you ever a CRC?
Very briefly.
Okay, yeah, so you've had exposure to site CRO,
Hmm.
sponsor level, or just through the CRO side at the sponsor facing side. You
Through
ever
the
work for a sponsor?
Never worked for a sponsor. I've done on the CRO side where they have like the sponsor partnership. I've worked
Okay,
like exclusively designated sponsor studies, but they've never paid me, put it that way.
but basically, have a FSP model. You've basically been like sponsor team, even though you're
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
CRO.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's as close as I've gotten to working on the sponsor side.
And we've discussed this on the last time I had you on. Site ownership is always something intriguing to you. Doesn't mean you're going to do it tomorrow, but it's something you've thought about. what do you think about the site ownership that attracts you to it?
So, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but one of the main things is that it's like an alternative route to, still be in the industry and help people, right? And be on that, like you're on the patient side, you're still digging into protocols and stuff like that. Still make decent money and then be kind of in and be in control of your career, right? Because on the sponsor, even the sponsor side, but sponsor CRO side, it's always going to be like if you're the person like us that's like has the entrepreneurial spirit and you're like you know how it is, like if you're that person going to the CTM role, going to the PM role, going to the line manager role, that's not going to be for you long term. So trying to find like, cause that's me. Like I, I did I tell you I was a line manager briefly too?
Yeah, you told me that, I think, on the
Yeah,
last one, but that makes sense. That makes sense, though.
yeah. So it's like, okay. And being in the CTM role and seeing those new challenges and like assessing the situation and saying, this is not something I want to do long, for the rest of my life. Right.
Yeah.
Then having a site is an alternative option that can still like, create success and you can have like that financial freedom that you're looking for, but on your own terms. And then you can have multiple sites, right? You can really like grow it into something on your own terms. And then you're like on the site side. So maybe you can help, and even if it's a small way, but help the industry, because I feel like until sites make certain demands, things won't change, because whether sites know it or not, they're really in control. Nothing can be done without sites, right?
And the
Like
sponsors do know that.
they know that, but I don't think the sites know that.
No, the sites don't know that.
They're not aware. Most of them are like very like trying to please the sponsor. Please don't kick me off the study. Please select me. They have that approach,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But they just don't know that like it's not like a long list of sites that's standing in line that's qualified. So if you're qualified, unless you're like you have some type of 483 that said you did something completely crazy, right? You're gonna get selected most likely. Um,
Right.
and sites just don't like. We need you to enter the data. If you don't enter the data, then there's no study, right? So the ball is literally in the site's court, and they don't realize that. So until sites start making certain types of, quality demands, like, no, I'm not going to have an SIV until this contract is fully executed, until I have these lab kits, until everything is the way that it's really supposed to be. Like if we start making those demands from the site level, then they have no choice because they're solely dependent on sites.
I'm glad
So
you brought that up as outsider. Never been at the site. Well, other than being a CRC, but you've basically been a CRO and sponsor side your whole career. To say that gives a lot of us sites more confidence. At least it should. Like, this is one of the reasons we want to have you at the Save Our Sites conference. Um, we think, I
yeah,
know that sites are powerful, but like you said, the majority of them don't. And the majority of coordinators that work at sites, they're not going to step outside of the box. Some site directors will, but I've noticed from the studies I'm working on at UMA Clinical Trials, like, I'm a coordinator, site owner. When I'll complain to the sponsor, I get like action. I don't just get someone listening to me. They actually make something happen.
yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling
Hmm.
you. But a lot of sites aren't like you. They don't speak up. They just
Yeah.
say, they just try to accommodate every bizarre demand, for lack of a better word.
Well, it's not
Instead,
like it's not like we're special. Like UMA Clinical Trial, like my coordinators, I don't think they're comfortable either. Um, I I don't want to call it complaining, but yes, Brad, we're getting Jasmine to SOS. It's already been done, man. She's there. She's
hey,
there.
Brad.
Like, when I stepped out of bounds and it circumvented my CRO because I wasn't getting action for a particular study, went to the sponsor. I told my CRCs later because one of them told me, "I can't believe you did that." Like, it's fear. Like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." I said,
Yeah,
"Well, why not? What's the issue here? And I want you to get to that point where you're doing it too. I don't need you to be a loose cannon and do it all the time, but when it's important, I
yeah,
need you to figure out like one of my roles is to teach you what's important and what's not, when to do this, when not to. It's like a lot of nuances there, but yeah, I wish more sites did that too. I think we'd have more change faster, maybe.
absolutely. Because some of the requests, um, and they trickle down from the sponsor. So don't think it's like the CRO coming up with these things, but like sometimes they'll ask for, I don't know, even something like note to file. Sometimes I feel like sponsors that I've worked with in the past, like they just request and demand so much from the site in terms of like, oh, you need to create a note to file for this or note to file for that. Or even like midway in the study, they decide they want to add like 5 forms to the EDC. And then all of a sudden, data that you entered got kicked out, and now you gotta, now you gotta enter it back
Wow.
in. And then they want to argue with you because they don't want to pay you more, and because it's not in the contract, right? And and then God forbid they hadn't paid you for the visits already that were entered, because then now they're going to say if you don't put in that new data, they're not going to pay you for those visits. So stuff like that. And it's like it doesn't create a collaborative, supportive team environment. So that's another one of the things that I feel like is a big issue, a big disconnect, because it's like them versus us versus we, and we have to figure out a way to work this out together.
Yeah, us three stakeholders, sites, CRO sponsors. I mean, we are the patients see us as a one. Like they don't care. The patient shows up to the clinic. They see
Yeah,
the clinic. They see a medical office. They don't
yeah,
see CRO site sponsor. They don't care about all that. They just want
yeah.
the study. So in a way, we are all on the same team, right? And we're here to service the patient and collect the data, and that's it. But like, I think we complicate things a lot, and technology is not going to make it. Make that go away. Jesse says that my AMC was excited to explore using different vendors to streamline our processes, but I came to find out our regulatory team uses Viva. Shout out to Viva for e-signatures only. They are not interested in using their e-reg aspects. Instead, we rely on a bunch of Excel sheets.
Mm,
Yeah, it
yeah.
happens.
That's unfortunate, yeah. And I've been there too, Jesse, where people are relying on Excels and Word docs, and just SharePoint, and it's like, why? When there's
Yeah,
such a more efficient way, like Viva.
and you
Why?
monitor a lot of AMCs, right?
Yeah.
Do you prefer AMCs or traditional like community clinics? What do you prefer?
Um, I guess it
No
really
filter, no filter.
I guess no, I guess it really doesn't matter when you're thinking about monitoring anyways. You just think about what type of source the site is keeping from a monitoring perspective. So is it like all paper or electronic? And then is it like customized templates that they've created so it's only the data from that is needed for the study? Or is it like a regular patient visit and they've like captured everything you could possibly think of, and you have to dig through it and figure out what,
Wow.
like, read through the whole thing and figure out what's needed.
I've
So from a
monitored that stuff before. I know where you're talking. And cancer, that
yeah,
happens all the time.
yeah. So from a monitoring standpoint, it doesn't really matter. At least for me, I focus on the type of source. Because even like the reg binders, how they keep the pharmacy binders, if it's separate, like how they keep all those documents when you're monitoring, that's like that'll either like make or break the visit. Because if you have to do a lot of digging and searching and figuring out and trying to understand, that creates a whole nother level of issues, versus if everything is like clear and nice and neat, where to to get everything, the story makes sense. It's like
Hmm.
night and day.
You prefer e-source or paper source, or you just
I
don't really
prefer
care?
eSource.
E-source.
eSource. And I'll tell you why. Because number one, paper, for some reason, we seem to lose the paper. Um, I've been on several studies where, we magically lost the delegation log at a site, or they magically lost you know, the training logs, you know, stuff like that. One time somebody magically lost the monitoring log, or one site they had half of the delegation log, but the first half went missing. Um, so
Yeah.
paper seems to come up missing for whatever reason. And then number two, if it's electronic, you know, we talked about that, you know, eliminating that transcription piece, but then also you can share it easier. And then I'm assuming that the system, depending on what system it is, but if you build in that confidentiality piece and making sure it's 21 part CFR compliant,
Mhm.
then it's like you can share it with, you know, the CRA remotely, with the sponsor potentially. If you like, you can share it a lot more easily. And I feel like it creates more visibility, because you're leaving out that step. Like you'll get the data in real time, you know, because that's another complaint that on the, you know, the sponsor CRO side we have, is that the visit took week. I mean, the visit took place a week ago. Why isn't the data entered? So to eliminate
Yeah.
that too, you know.
Shout out to Creo for working on that. Shameless plug. Brad says Sites wants to play nice, and it can be difficult to know when to draw the line. It's a skill you have to learn, and it takes time. Yeah, it's you're right.
It is.
And you
Yeah.
know, as a site owner, like as much as I want to empower my CRCs to act autonomously, um, I don't think I would want a newer CRC overstepping the lines of communication and going straight to the sponsor. Like I think that should be reserved for a site director, maybe.
Oh
So if
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
And maybe even because the PI, if the PI says something or makes a
mm.
request, it's like God said it. So if you have the PI say it, they'll definitely listen.
So there's
I've
a
been
strategy for the coordinators. Get your PI to say it. Write down what
absolutely,
you need them to say, and they tell them.
that's the part, because if the PI says it, then it's gold. Like they're not going to go against what a PI says, because like I said, if nobody hears me when I say anything else, like we need you, like capital
Right.
NEED.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that we're all literally on the same team. Like even the sponsor, CRO, even everybody, all the moving pieces, we're all on the same team. We're supposed to be all like going towards the same goal. But somehow or another, something gets lost, and then it's like there's this resistance between the groups. I don't get it.
hmm Um. Yeah. Lots to work on the site level. SaveOurSites.com, guys. Jasmine's gonna be there. Um. What do you like better, CRA or CTM, and why?
CRA.
No
Um,
hesitation with that one.
no hesitation. Um,
Why? Everyone thinks CTM. Once this is what I'm talking about. Grass is greener. Oh, you got all these CRAs out there, and they're especially the newer ones. They're like, oh, I can't wait. I'm doing this so I could be a CTM in 3 years.
yeah, yeah. Um, I would say, and I will let everybody know I'm a newer CTM, so I'm still on that learning curve. So it is like, you know, when you're on the learning curve, you either sink or swim. So I'm still on there. I'm still swimming. But I
hmm
will throw that out there. So maybe once I have more time in the role, I'll feel a little bit differently. But CRA, why? Because you're only like focused and responsible for your specific sites. Whereas the CTM, it's like the whole study.
Mm.
And depending on like the study that's shown, if it's a global study, like for me, then it's, you know, multiple countries get involved. So it's not just the US, right? So that's the first thing. Like you're responsible for all these sites versus your assigned sites. And then on top of that, you have to, you know, you're that direct contact with the sponsor if you're on the CRO side, of course. If not, and you're the CTM on the sponsor side, then you oversee the sponsor. So that's, if anybody's like CTM, try the sponsor side first.
Mm.
Um, but you're responsible for, you know, that interaction with the sponsor. So constantly keeping them up to date on everything that's going on with the entire study So all the sites, all the countries, imagine. Once patients start enrolling, especially depending on, like, I do a lot of oncology phase 1. So a lot of this, or two, or phase 2. So a lot of the studies are dose escalation studies. And for those of you who don't know, that's when we're trying to figure out the recommended dose for phase 2. So getting that data in the beginning is kind of crucial because you're trying to figure out the cohorts, and then there's dose limiting toxicity assessments. There's a lot of different moving pieces in those studies. But as a trial manager, it's like you have to give updates on all those little things. Whereas the CRA, you're just doing your visit, writing your report, and submitting
Yeah.
it.
Rod said the grass is dead on the other side.
That's
Just
a
saying.
good one.
Rod's been doing this for a while.
That's funny. That's a really good one.
But I think that the way I see it, I've never been a CTM. I've been a CRA. The way I see it, at least from my interactions as a site director with both, I only call my CTM when there's a problem. Like, I never call them. Maybe I should, but I just don't. I never call them and say, "Hey, the study's going smooth. Thanks for doing a good job." Um, I call my CTM when there's a problem. But with my CRA, sometimes I will. Like today, we had a monitor at our site, and I called him right before my previous Zoom, before ours, and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" "Okay, thank you, man. Everything's going well." And so that was like a pleasant conversation with the senior with our CRA. I only call the CTM if there's an issue, and I know there's like 100 other sites on the study doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I know their sponsors go to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
everybody, CRAs go to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're dealing you,
The
not they, you,
vendors
Jasmyn, are dealing with problems all day long.
That's basically what it is. And the vendors go to the CTMs too. So the EDC
Wow.
vendor, the IRT vendor, the central lab, if you have any like central imaging, if you're using like a patient concierge or something like that, depending on who you're using, the central IRB, depending on if you're using like an external vendor for the safety system, like you're also, all of those people are coming to you too. And then you're meeting with them on a weekly basis because from the beginning of the study, everything has to be built out, right? So you're meeting with them on a weekly basis to build out what needs to go in on the monitoring side of things, on the site management side. And then on top of that, you're creating all the study specific documents. So if you're on the site side, you may not know this, but internally we have like a monitoring plan, for example. All of the visits that require a report, we also have annotations to guide the CRAs to write the reports. The CTM has to create all of these things. And then
Wow.
maintain them throughout. If there's an amendment and it impacts one of the documents, then you have to revise the documents and you have to get the sponsor approval on everything. So there's that. Like the SIV slide deck, the CTM created the slide deck, right? If you have selection visits, there's a slide deck for that. So all of those documents and things, you're creating those, you're maintaining those, you're updating those, and you're meeting with all these people every week, all these different vendors, right? You're meeting with the sponsor, you have internal meetings, external meetings, you're meeting with the CRAs. And then with amongst all these meetings, you're still trying to address all of these issues that people are having. Like the patient visit has come up, but the drug isn't on site. Oh my God, what do we do?
Or what
Or
about Jasmyn? We haven't got paid in like 4 months.
that's another one. That's
And
another
what
one.
do you do? How do you resolve that?
Well, thank God for me, the CTM, like I don't have to really like, be heavily involved in that. So that's something that I would, escalate.
Escalate to sponsor or someone else, like
Project manager.
project manager.
So
I see.
typically there's like a project lead, well, sometimes both, like a director of all of the entire project, and then like maybe a project manager like right under.
I
Um,
gotcha.
so yeah.
That does sound stressful. You ever get a call from a site and say, "Hey, you know what? Everything's fine. I just wanted to see how we can help you out."
Never. I've never gotten that
I
call.
wonder if that's a good strategy to get future studies as a
I think
site.
if a site called me and said that, I would like I would have to tell everybody, like tell the sponsor. I think it is a good strategy.
Would it be memorable? I might do that
Oh, it
tomorrow.
would definitely be memorable. And
I have
then
to pick a study that's going well though, which are none right now. So I gotta wait.
internally, I can't speak. I didn't work at every single CRO, but I've worked at quite a few of the big ones, right? Internally, we keep track of, um, let's say, sites performance.
Mm.
So that would definitely help you stand out. Um, just because no, Tiffany says good strategy for sure. Hey, Tiffany.
I'm gonna use this strategy. I just gotta find a study that's smooth. Right now they're all rocky.
Well,
I'll
yeah.
wait.
So, but no, maybe it being rocky is good though, because then it's like
Mm.
you're trying to be proactive and you're thinking about what can I do, right? I think that would be a good.
Okay. But then they'll give me stuff to do, Jasmine.
I
You're
don't think
giving me more work.
I don't think they will. They'll probably just be so shocked that you even call.
Yeah. Yeah. If they even answer. I gotta think about that one, but that's good to keep in mind for like future stuff. But maybe I'll do that. That's so usually you guys are just picking up calls like people complaining, people mad, people need something
And
done.
Tiffany, I didn't know she was watching, but Tiffany is like
She's CTM.
She's the CTM queen.
Yeah, I know.
And I actually registered for the CTM Clean Essentials course. Like
Hmm.
it's been a rough journey. I've been texting her too. But Tiffany, we need to have her on one day so she can talk about all the CTM stuff because she's the CTM queen.
Oh,
So
Tiffany, a huge respect to her.
yeah, and maybe she can give the perspective of more of like a senior person versus somebody that's like riding that curve right now.
Well, she told me good strategy, and you did, so I think I'll run with that one. Uh, maybe Rod is asking me, but I'll ask you this first. Three things you didn't know before becoming a CTM, since you were a CRA all these years.
Three things I didn't know.
Three assumptions, like three false assumptions about the job that you were proven wrong when you started working in it.
I don't know because I think I expected all of this. I guess I just didn't realize how overwhelming and stressful it would be. But I
Mm.
kind of expected it. And again, I am on that learning curve, y'all. So maybe it will, once you get, when you're on that curve, it's like, it's rough.
So everyone's complaining to you more or less from all sides, all stakeholders, sites, vendors, CRAs,
Well, not
sponsors.
even complaining, but just everybody needs something, and you are literally the go-to
Yeah.
person for their need. And it's just so many different moving pieces. That's where, and then the volume of like emails alone is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Tiffany
But I
can
was gonna say,
to that.
who do you go to when you need something, like, or when you gotta vent or complain as a
Well,
CTM? Seemed like the buck stops with you.
yeah, but I do also, I believe in coaches. I have my own coach, so I go to
Ah,
my coach. But like if it's a problem or issue, I might go to the medical monitor or I'll go to the PM. If it's like a data issue, I'll go to the data manager. It depends on like what issue is. I'll go to like that department, especially if we're in study startup and it's something related to that, I'll go to the study startup lead. So it just depends on the topic.
but as far as like, because you're the CTM of your study, right? If you is there like a there's always a higher up, but like, are you encouraged to pursue this line of communication when
Yes.
needed, or?
Yes, and then you also have a plan going back to all the documents that are written. There's a communication plan too. So it clearly outlines what the layers and the levels of escalation is in the event that there's, different issues.
But you write this, so you can put anything you want in there.
The communication plan I don't write. The PM
Ah, okay,
the
okay.
PM writes that, yeah. But keeping in mind that with this, the mid to large CROs, mostly everything is templates.
Hmm.
So you can't really put everything in there because you have to. There's certain things in there they will not let you delete, including the sponsor, and then the sponsor has to approve it.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything has to be approved by the sponsor.
yeah. I find this stuff fascinating. So as a CTM, are you, let's say you get another project with another sponsor, do you have a say in sites that are being used? Like, let's say you see the feasibility list and you're like, hey, you know what? This site's missing. Like, can we add them?
Um, yes and no. So I guess it would depend on the suggestion and then like the need. And then also the company, because some companies are like, absolutely not. We have our own way. It is what it is. But then,
Hmm.
like on the smaller side, they're more open to your suggestions. So let's say you've worked with a site before and they've been like really awful, and you have some proof or whatever, what have you, and you're like, absolutely not. We cannot select this site. Then you make, I can make those suggestions if there is, we're low on sites or what, or we need sites that, now the trials, the FDA is really pushing for diversity. So
Hmm.
let's say, there's a site that, their patients are good, they're always going to get the diversity. So if I recommended them, then it's like, oh yeah, of course, because they'll help us, get the diverse population. So it depends, but I say yes and no because at the end of the day, the sponsor has the ultimate choice. So there's times where we say no, absolutely, do not choose this site, and we outline why, and they're like, no, we want this site. We don't care what you say, and they might even make them a KOL. They might
Yeah,
even make them a committee member, right?
right.
Um, but we give our recommendations, and then it's ultimately up to them. So that's why I say yes and no.
Right. Ultimately, it's up to them. They're the sponsor, but I'm just thinking for as a site owner, you know, making relationships with the CTMs, like
Oh
what the
yeah, it's
ROI is.
always good. I always encourage. That's a part of my when I coach clients, networking. And I think we talked about this before, how big networking is.
Yeah.
So the CTM, the PM, the DM, whoever it is, like always build, establish a relationship and nurture and build it if you can.
As much as we complain, I'm sure you feel the same about me. I complain a lot also. Um,
You complain?
I've been accused of it, like of complaining too much, just like why do
What?
sites need to be saved? For example, our conference, Save Our Sites. Like, why do sites need to be saved? Well, they do. They they need to be saved because without getting too ahead of myself here, payments, um, IE criteria, some of the stakeholder. Oftentimes, as a site, we feel like we're the odd man out, basically. When it comes to like the sponsor CRO dynamic, sponsor CRO site vendor, those four dynamic, 4 pillars, we often feel left out. Um,
Hmm.
that's why, and I'm not naive. I think if there was a way for sponsors and CROs to do studies without sites, they would. I mean, they literally had a name for it. It was called virtual trials, and then it was called decentralized trial. Don't get me started, Jasmyn. You could get me in trouble again. It was called virtual trials. It was called decentralized trials. Fail, fail. So now they're back to having to work with us. But that's why sites need to be saved. But like what I was gonna say was, you know, there's a lot of work. Like we can point out what's wrong with the industry, but at the on the other hand, I'm very grateful to be in this industry. Like
Yeah.
especially as a side owner, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we're talking about some of the challenges, but you're right. It is overall, it is a rewarding career. It can be exciting and fun depending on like the study and the sponsor and the therapeutic area. And if you're on the site side, you get to deal with the patients and you get to have a little bit more of that like bench side experience because you're actually dealing with the patients. But even on the CRO side, there's something to be said because then you can learn more internally about you know, the infrastructure of the trials and how it's ran from big picture perspective. So either way, on either side, it's like so many opportunities. Like our industry is one of the industries that thrive when other industries are just sinking.
We're seeing that now too,
Yeah,
like with other industries, and
yeah,
ours is still thriving. CVS and all these DCT stuff, put them in another category. But
yeah.
our
Yeah.
industry's thriving, and I didn't
It-
want people to. I wanted you to be able to share your passion for this industry as well, and not just, you know, we could someone could be seeing this for the first time and say, all these guys do is complain all day, but
But I feel like I don't know, those people that interpret what you're saying as complaining, they aren't listening. Because in my opinion, it's just constructive criticism. And if you this is how things improve, right? You have to listen to the end user, which is the sites essentially in this particular scenario. So
mhm.
why not listen to the people that are like the end user for what, the protocol, they're following it, they're letting you know, like if they're saying that this particular criteria is just ridiculous. If it wasn't for this one, try to reassess, think about it. But then I also understand their side because the FDA's, requirements are getting so strict that they're like forcing them to start including things that typically wouldn't be a requirement. So that's another battle that they're trying to face, which is why I said we all have to come together ultimately to improve because it's like we're all interdependent on each other and it's so many moving pieces that we all have to be on the same page.
um Getting what gets you really like your career coaching, like you really, I know you now for a few years, and that's always been your passion. What about that excites you? Like,
um to see how I haven't worked with a man yet. Only women and
really, any
yeah.
guys out there, come on, let us know. I will sponsor your stuff to Jasmine, right? I will like pay for your, wait, how much do you charge? But before I promise, is it expensive or what?
If you pay in full, if this is private, if you pay in full then it's 3,500.
Oh crap! Hold on, I'm gonna pay some of it. All right, just somebody hit me up a male. So you only had female clients so far?
Yeah. And then I just launched a group that'll start July 1st. And that one is if you pay in full 900 or 175 a month.
I
So that's really
see. I
super.
see.
Yeah. But only women, and I guess the most rewarding thing is watching them transform. Because most times they come like with all these insecurities, like, can I really get a CRA job? They feel like they don't have enough. They need to get 5 more degrees, or
Oh my gosh, I hate
three
that.
more, 3 more certifications. Like they think they need all these things that they don't need. So to watch them transform, not only get a job, but like transform into this like confident woman that is ready to like take control of their career, like that's the best part.
Okay, that's Jesse. Uh, you will get a chance, Jasmine. Jesse just did CRC and CRA Academy.
He, t- he didn't tell
So
me
you're
about
gonna be the guest lecturer for the. I guess maybe we reveal it now. Jasmine's gonna be a guest lecturer every now and then for our academy. So
this.
you're gonna get Jasmine to coach you through
Ocean.
that. So there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Jesse
Uh,
said I'll volunteer.
yeah, you volunteer. Let's go halfsies. I don't know about that. Jasmine charge inflation must be kicking in, but
Oh
that's
my gosh.
a good. It's a good. Getting people in this industry, I think is important. But it's interesting that it's only been female, even though this is like a female dominated, heavily female dominated industry. What? Why do you think that actually is?
What, female dominator or that I haven't worked
Yeah, like
with?
I'm actually there's not that many dudes like at my site. It's just me, and then there's three female CRCs, and the ratio just skews like heavily female in this
It
industry.
is, but also keeping in mind, depending on the levels that you're looking at, because from like the CRO side, for example, it's a lot of women at the bottom, but as you slowly get closer towards the sweet C-suite, it shifts
Mm.
into all men.
Yes, yes, yes. What about diversity? Like the industry's push for diversity. I've had um I've had Brittany Sloan on Black Research Matters in the past, and she basically said the same thing. What you just said reminded me of what she said, but she said it from a diversity standpoint. Um, Hispanics, Latinos, African Americans. Once you get up to the C suites, it's the same thing. It's like white males.
That's it.
Uh,
That's pretty much it. And then maybe they'll like let in maybe one white female, but that's it.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe. As like, maybe the senior VP or something. But
But you know where that's not the case is like some of these biotechs. I
it's
feel
not.
like that's. I think there's like Bluebird Bio is one that I distinctly remember when I used to analyze stocks. I used to just pick smaller biotechs. Bluebird had like a heavily focused C-suite females. Um, I think there's been improvement there, but I think it's trickling up like from the smaller companies. Uh, but then they ultimately get acquired by the big one.
And they all are getting swallowed up, right?
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
crazy. Like you'll be in you know on a study, working on a study, and all of a sudden they get an email saying they got bought by whoever. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's how it goes. That's
So
how
side ownership. You're a young lady, Jasmine. You think eventually you'll try side
oh yeah,
ownership?
for sure. I'm gonna definitely try it at the very least. Because going back to what I said earlier, it's another good path to, or alternative rather, if you don't want to go like the PM director, like that route. And you want to, kind of get out of corporate and have your own thing. If you're that entrepreneurial type person, and then you offer services to help, because I have some people that come to me and they ask about getting started with sites, or they've gotten started with the site and they come to me with questions, and I send them to you because
Thank you, thank you.
you have your service, to help people get started from scratch. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. So if you're a CRA, maybe you've been in the game for like 10, 11, 12 years and you're like, what else can I do? I recommend a student for business.
Just as a small world, I recommend a student from Dance Academy that reached out to Jesse to Jasmine's coaching service. So yeah, there
Cool.
you
I
go.
think I know who you're talking about too, Jesse, because I think she signed up. She told me.
It
I think we're talking about the same person.
it's a small world. Rod said just do it as far as site ownership
Yeah.
route. Yeah, I mean the services, and that's where I was gonna lead to. Like the services I started with the site, helping sites. I created what I wish I had when I started. Now I'm glad to see there's tech vendors like my sponsors. I'm super proud of all three of them: Versatrial, Creo, and then Inato for the biz dev as well.
And all
Um,
those things make starting a site easier too.
I
Whereas
think so.
before you had to like figure it all out on your own.
And the benefit of starting a site, like when you're starting out, is you can start with the tech directly. A lot of this stuff, Versatral's
Yeah,
free, Vivo
yeah,
Site Vault is free,
yeah,
and Nato is free, and you could work your way into some of the more like the paid ones like Creo. Although
yeah,
I started with Creo from the beginning, but
yeah. And
we
then the
didn't
one
have
that
these when I started.
we definitely didn't have these when I started either. And then even the one that I told you about, Sightline,
Yes,
another one. I'm pretty sure there's
CITE, right? Site
yeah,
CITE
yeah.
line.
And there's probably so many more that we don't even know about. And Sightline is another one of those that you can register for free. It's really good. I haven't had the time to dig into it. Um, but they sent me a welcome email and everything and asking me if I needed if I had questions or needed some support. They're pretty good. Um, but what were we saying? Oh, going back to the site thing. Another great point to point out is that I love how you say save your site, save our sites, because we need more sites. I don't think people understand that point. We literally need more sites. Now we don't need them to all be bunched up in the same big cities.
LA, Miami,
We don't need any more in those areas.
Atlanta.
Yeah. But we need more that's like spread out. And that's where, CRAs can come in at that are getting ready to retire. Maybe they live in like one of those areas and they can start a site, right? Collaborate with a doctor. And that in and of itself, I feel like will also help the industry because we just need more sites and we need more quality sites because everybody's not like you. There's not, and let's just put it this way, everybody's not following the rules. Everybody's not a quality site. Um, so just putting more quality sites into our industry as a whole is a necessity.
Yeah, there's definitely like that grass is greener that thing is definitely true when it comes to people wanting to start sites. They think it's like money right away. It's actually not. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress as well. I would say CRA is still stressful, more stressful from my experiences. I can't imagine CTM. Um, but like if you take finances aside, I think those things are more stressful. If you're banking on your site to also pay your bills, not just the site bills, but your living expenses, now you're compounding the stress as a site owner as well. But if you give it a good year or two to get a runway, I think the stress kind of eases off. Like I'm at the point now, I'm almost at the 2 year mark of EMA clinical trials. I'm actually getting pickier on studies. I'm saying no to studies, um,
And you see
whereas before I didn't.
that's another thing. Like every site is not going to accept every study, which is why we need more sites.
We need more sites. Yeah,
We need
yeah.
more sites. So I love the fact that you called it Save Our Sites because people don't realize like sites are
Brad
kind
came up.
of
Shout out to Brad. He came up with that name.
oh, that's brilliant because in a way, sites are kind of dying.
Yes,
Some of them they open up, but then they don't last. Like CVS. Think about all the private doctors that
CVS can join us too. Save our sites. They can join us.
yeah, and even the doctor that I told you that I'm gonna be collaborating with, he took a go at it at first and it didn't work out. And if it wasn't for me, he said he was done with it. So imagine all of
Mm,
those little sites like that like they could really, contribute to the industry, but for whatever reason they got off to a bad start and then they just quit.
yeah.
So it really is a brilliant. I don't know who's telling you you're just complaining, but it's a brilliant name because we literally do need to save our sites.
There's a small but growing cohort of people out there that have told us to complain less and tone down the memes, and essentially they want us to do like what everyone else does with a conference. Like
I just think that's I don't know. The censoring nowadays is like,
I don't like it.
if you don't like it, like just don't watch it. Like why
we
do
didn't we didn't start it to be like everyone else. We started it because we wanted a conference that we
yeah,
could go to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the censoring is amazing. It's like
Well,
when are you
welcome back to YouTube, Jasmine.
allowed?
Be careful what you say. What else do we not cover? I love having you on because I think we're gonna have Ashley on with you next time, and then we'll have one with Tiffany and you.
Okay.
Um, Tiffany said she's down. Anything else we
Oh,
didn't cover
with
or
Brad,
what?
we need one with Brad.
Brad, have you ever been on Brad's show?
I've been on his podcast. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's a good
yeah,
one.
it was fun.
Gotta introduce you to Dr. Fox. Yeah, he's part of Save Our Sites too, and
Oh
get
wow.
you on his podcast, CPRN Network. Yeah, he's super passionate about this stuff. Okay. I feel like people want to get a hold of you. Jasmine's LinkedIn is underneath. When you are watching this on YouTube, it's underneath. And when you're listening to the podcast, it's in the show notes. Go to Jasmine's LinkedIn. She's at 20K, guys. It's for a reason. You did this on your own. When did you start branding yourself?
Um, During COVID.
During COVID, you got to 20K that fast? That's insane, Jasmine. Super good job on that. It's
Yeah,
not easy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to get the word out because
So pre-COVID, what did you have? How many you had? Like LinkedIn.
pre-COVID, I didn't even like. I was there on LinkedIn, but like more so from like the job seeker presence versus like coach presence.
So once you
So I don't
started
even
that, you
remember.
got to 20K
It was like
that
maybe
quickly.
1,000 or something like that. I can't remember.
So you
It's
blew
pretty
up during COVID. I think that's when I must have discovered you then too. Whenever you started your YouTube channel is when you came on my radar.
Mm. So that wasn't that long ago then. That was
It just feels longer than
2021.
21. No,
Yeah, that's when I started at the end of 21.
weren't you a guest on someone else's? Maybe I saw you
I
somewhere on
think I
YouTube.
was. Like I've been guests and stuff before because
Yeah, no, I've seen you earlier than
I
that.
was on also ACRP TV. And then I've spoken at the Soccer conference. So I've been on some other things.
Well, I
Maybe
wouldn't know you from those things, but yeah, I mean, you've gone to those things. Are those worth going to? The CRA, CRP, all that?
I would say yes, depending on where you are in your career. So I always advise people it's always going to be based upon your unique situation because I don't feel like there's a one size fits all, you know.
Okay.
But they're always good for networking at the
Yeah.
very least.
Jesse says when you're posting a new podcast, Jasmine.
Yeah, you put me on the spot, Jesse. Um, so I've been super busy with the CTM role that we've been talking about, which is kind of what has been putting everything on hold. Because whether you know it or not, like I'm a one-woman show for the most part. Like I have to do everything on my own. So I plan to get it back going at the very latest by the beginning of June, but hopefully I can get out an episode like at least one before the end of this month.
Do you? I think I asked you before, but do you have a family, kids?
I do. I have a daughter. She's 10, and then a husband.
How do you balance that? I never asked you on an interview.
it's it's rough, you know? Like basically I try to block out time or put everything on my calendar. So even if I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I know roundabout like I'm going to need to do something, I have to go ahead and put it on my calendar and like block out that time. I even have to block out like quiet time or block out like, you know, time to work on coaching stuff. And then I coach in the evenings and then the weekends. So it's like I just have to put everything on my calendar and like plan it out. Like even, you know, spending time with my daughter, or if I'm going on like an out, I have to plan it all out and put it on my calendar.
Yep. Yep. Um,
Like
it's.
every little thing.
But I'm assuming one of the reasons why you went to CTM was no more travel, right? Or at
No
least
more
not as much.
travel. Yeah, no more travel. And then also to get the experience, I guess. That's one of them because
But
you know.
like no travel at all, or occasional.
So occasionally, like I might have a face-to-face meeting, or maybe there's an in-person investigator meeting. Lately, people have been doing investigator meetings remotely. Have you seen that?
I just got invited to one today in October in Dallas. So I'll be in Dallas in October if
Oh,
anyone's there.
cool. Well, some of them are trying to do it. What's the TA?
The what?
What's the
Oh,
therapy?
therapeutic indication, obesity.
Okay. Well, yeah, with some of the like I was telling you with oncology, they've been trying to do everything remote. So some of the investigator meetings are remote. But I might have to go to there. Potentially like if there's something going on at a site, you know, they have a quality issue or something like that, maybe go out there. But other than that, no.
I
There's not
see.
like
So it's not
yeah.
like the normal part of your job. It's just you may, but it's like an outlier type
Yeah.
of event.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah, here's Jasmine. Speaking of CTM, she also took Tiffany's CTM class, and
Oh, cool.
she works with our CRO as well, and with me and Chris on the back end of a whole bunch of stuff. Shout out
Oh,
to
cool.
Jasmine. She goes like unnoticed a lot of times, like on these lives, but
Yeah,
she does a lot of the work.
I
She's on
don't
the
think I
CRA
know.
Academy too. You gotta get to know Jesslyn.
Yeah, I'm gonna connect now. I don't think we're connected. Oh
Jesslyn,
no,
what's
we
wrong
are.
with you?
It says we are.
Okay,
It
you
says
have
we
to
are, but
be.
I haven't spoke. I'm gonna reach out to her.
Jesslyn's connected to everyone. Jesslyn's
Oh,
good
cool.
peeps.
Yeah, I'm gonna connect with her. I see now.
Anything
Oh,
else
cool.
we didn't discuss, or it's a co-interview, but I felt like I dominated, like hogged up most of the questions.
No, it's okay. I think we covered mostly everything. Long story short is the grass is not greener on the other side, right? It's just the other side, and it's just
But
different.
occasionally it is.
I
It's
can't
enough to keep
remember.
people going.
It is. I can't remember. It was one PI that I spoke to like a long time ago. I can't remember who he was, his name. I probably shouldn't say it anyways. But he basically described it as shoveling shit. And basically, you know, do you want to shovel the shit over here or do you want to shovel it on the other side? But it's like basically it's still like shoveling shit is just in a different way in a different area. Um
That's well said.
yeah. So that's
Reminds me
how
of
we described it. And again, people, it's not all bad.
no.
Um, like it can be a rewarding career, but you do have to be prepared to put in effort and energy to work and then to learn, because when you get new studies, regardless of what side you're on, you're constantly learning, right?
You have to be. Yeah, we love what we do. Can't wait to do more interviews with you, Jasmyn. If you are
Yeah.
CTM, you should consider Versatrial for your sites. It's free. Inato for the sites, if you let them know, and anyone watching, and then Creo. Those are the three sponsors we got, and a few more coming up that we'll announce shortly. But Jasmyn as well. I mean, I gotta introduce you to some of these guys because they could benefit from having a CTM future site owner on board. I mean, you're beyond influencer at this point. I didn't realize you grew that quickly too. That's impressive. Good job. Keep it up, Jasmyn. We need more of you on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So thank you for that.
No, of course. And we need, well, you said some people say you complain. So maybe
I'll
they,
still do memes. I'll do keep doing memes.
okay, I was about to
The
say we
complaints
need more.
come.
Yeah, we need more of that too.
We'll do
We
the
do.
memes. The complaints come when I'm heated about something. Like if I'm at the office and I'm upset about something, I'll just riff on LinkedIn real
But
quick
that
and
just shows the passion, though. That doesn't mean you're
yeah,
complaining. You
no,
just, you're passionate about the industry and what you do.
yeah, it doesn't bother me. The complaints, but I didn't want to give the false impression that there's nothing good about this
Oh
industry.
yeah,
Believe me, I would have been long gone if there's nothing good
yeah,
about this
yeah.
industry.
Right? We wouldn't be doing all this. Why open a site? Why be a CRA coach? Why do any of these things if it wasn't worth it? But yeah, you're right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, Jasmyn Adams, CRA career coach, guys, go connect with her right now. You all are probably all already, but if not, connect with her. And thank you for co-hosting me on your end too. This was cool. It was the first
Oh, of
time.
course not. We gotta take a poll for both of our audiences and see what they want the next topic to be.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah, and see what they want to hear.
Whatever they want, we can listen to the feedback and see what we can pull off. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jasmyn, and thank you everybody for watching. And like, subscribe, comment, share. Go follow Jasmyn right now. Bye bye.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody.